Nudge show. I'm Dayna Stewart. I'm the COO of the Nudge Group and the first employee of the Nudge Group. I only come out on very special occasions, and today is a very special occasion because it's our 100th episode of Give It a Nudge. So I'm here with Steve Grace, the founder of the Nudge Group and creator of Give It a Nudge. So welcome, Steve.
Creator.
I know.
I love that. So last time we filmed an episode together was 50th, right?
Yeah.
And we were in a different studio. So I've never, ever sat this side. And I don't like the view, I have to say. I think we need to talk about this because I don't think our guests, looking around, it's much better sitting there. So I'm going to have to think about that. It's weird sitting this side. It's super weird.
It's because you're used to being in control and I'm taking the control away from you. So look out, look out. So it is really funny how far we've come, I think. I mean, if you sort of look at our very first episode, as you said, working out of a pretty cold warehouse container storage
It was cold
unit.
or hot, right? Do you remember?
Yeah.
So when we filmed in winter, it was like, 8 degrees. And in that summer day, do you remember there was a summer day we filmed? I think you were there. And we had a couple of female guests on, probably 38 degrees in there. Yes. And their makeup started dripping down their faces.
Yeah, sweat patches.
Happy
was
days.
not good. But it's very different now. I mean, I think we have, founders on a wait list wanting to come on the show.
Crazy.
We have PR agencies pitching people to come and be on the show, and I think we've recorded now in Vietnam and Singapore and New York, the UK. So it's a really growing global platform that you've created, which is really exciting. So we've come a long way. Well done.
We have come a long way. You know what though? How long ago was it? Was it 3 years? Nearly?
Well, I think the first episode kicked off in COVID, 2020.
It wasn't COVID, yeah. So we 2023, or maybe a bit more than 3. It's probably about 3 years.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
It is. It's pretty crazy. So we've come a long way. I guess the purpose of the show when we first launched was really that recruitment tool. It still is. It's a recruitment tool to help the Nudge Group really share founder stories to an audience that typically doesn't necessarily know a lot about the businesses that we're hiring for. The idea at the beginning has transitioned a little bit, so maybe talk about the evolution of this show and where it's grown.
Well, if you remember, it was just the two of us, I think. It was just the two of us.
Just
then,
us.
Right? And we were sitting there and we were going, okay, no one wants to join our startups. One, there's no one looking for work. It was that really, really tight time.
Tight COVID time.
And no one wanted to join our startups. We were like, I don't understand. We're ringing these people up. They're in a great job. We're saying to them, hey, why don't you leave that great job, work for this company you've never heard of, for this founder that you've never heard of, and we all know it's got a 9 out of 10 chance of failing. Why wouldn't you want to do that? Seemed like a tough sell.
Bit of a tough sell, yeah.
So you and I said, well, what should we do? And we said, let's do a podcast. And everyone was doing podcasts. We were like, no, let's not do that. Let's do a TV show. And that was it. And that was the thought process, the strategy, the strategists that we are. And we said, if we do a TV show, then we can send the video and they can see the founder and they can hear the story. And then maybe, just maybe, they'll want to work for them. And best decision we ever made.
I think so too. I mean, it's really getting people to fall in love with a brand story before they've heard about the actual job itself. And it's made a huge difference. So
huge difference. I mean, no one tells the story better than the founder, right? So getting them to do it for us basically made our job a million times
a lot easier, and helped, I think, a lot with the retention of those people as well, because you're actually getting the right people with the right vision of joining the founder and the right skill set. So it's made the world of difference, I think.
Well, it changed our mindset, right? Remember, because we were doing recruitment in a more traditional way. Go out with a job, meet the company, meet the founder.
Yeah.
Whereas we flipped it on its head. Meet the founder, meet the company, meet the job. And that's been a game changer, I think. But it only really works in startup space, but I think it has. It's
definitely helped. It really has. And I think, if we look at the business, even back in 2020 to where it is now, like a lot of startups, a lot's changed.
Sure has.
There's certainly been a few challenges along the way, quite a lot of hiccups. And I know that we're not the only startup that's experienced a lot of these challenges. So maybe talk about what those challenges have been for us as a business.
Yeah, it's funny because when we did the 50th, if you remember, we started in 2019, right? And then when we did the 50th episode, we were in COVID, so we talked about COVID.
Yeah.
Such a long time ago.
Yeah.
And then after COVID, boom time, right? We had this massive boom where funding was like, anyone could get funding, literally anyone. And we both met a couple of founders, maybe more than a couple, who should never have got funding. And they're no longer with us, but they're not dead. But they're no longer with us in terms of their companies. But everyone
was harmed in the making of this film.
Absolutely. No founders. But it went nuts, and the demand for people was insane.
Yeah.
And to counter that, other than our own brilliance, we assumed that's what it was. But to counter that, the demand that came into Nudge, because we were one of maybe 1, 2, 3 agencies that really specialize in that space, there's not a lot of us, was just massive. And there was the 2 of us, and then we had a 3rd, and then we had a 4th, and we had a 5th, then we opened in London, then we had a 6th, then we opened in Singapore, and we grew like wildfire.
And that was in a pretty quick period of time as well, right? Like it wasn't
Probably
as though...
18 months if I think about it.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah, probably 18 months.
So 2 countries, 5 new hires.
More than 5.
More than 5 new hires.
Too many hires.
All within 18 months.
Because we had an offshore team as well, don't forget.
Correct, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it was just to meet the demand. And I think, like a lot of founders, and I'm not a first-time founder, so I should know better, I got a little carried away and excited, and it didn't seem like it was never going to end. But we knew it was going to end. In fact, we even talked about it ending, and we talked about the shortcomings we had in that business.
With
the number one being, startups don't hire contractors. Now, for anyone who's never run a recruitment business, contractors should account for at least 60% of your revenue, so that you've got that consistent recurring revenue coming in, and 40% really is your profit, essentially. The 60% covers costs, wages, commissions, etc., and then 40% is your cost. We had none. I think we had, at our peak, we had
10?
Yeah, I was going to say 12, but maybe.
You're an
but now,
optimist.
what have we got now? I think we've got 1, and he works 1 day a week.
Yeah.
And we're nearly 5 years into the business.
Yeah.
It just doesn't exist. And we knew then, and we would talk about it all the time. We've got no recurring revenue, got no recurring revenue. But because the market was so busy and the volume of work coming through the door was so crazy, and we were opening up new offices, and we were working out how to launch businesses in new countries, and all these other things we were doing, and the media stuff that we started doing with this and all the other things.
Yeah.
It just kept getting pushed back. It was in every strategy meeting. We did have strategy meetings. It was in every strategy meeting, every quarter. And we kind of talk about it, but we never really did anything.
It kind of got brushed under the carpet because we were so busy. We're at capacity.
We were. And then when it came back to bite us, it's the worst feeling in the world. Because it's like, I guess it's like dating that person you know you shouldn't date, or eating that food you know you shouldn't eat, or buying that car you know you shouldn't buy. You get seduced.
Yeah.
And then it comes back and bites you on the ass.
Yeah. And I think the other kind of amazing thing that we offered was obviously the payment, 6-month payment plan.
Yeah.
Which, if you guys aren't aware of that, from a recruitment perspective, it's usually an upfront cost for a hire. Whereas because we're working purely with startups and scale-ups, we let those clients pay over a 6-month period of time. So it was sort of letting their cash flow catch up. But for us, great idea, but...
Yeah, it's still, and we still do it, right? We still do it, and it's still a great idea. But because our motto has always been help the founder first, we didn't use a funding business. We funded it ourselves.
Yep.
And we didn't use a funding business because we didn't want to charge any interest, because we didn't want to disadvantage them. The whole idea was to make it easier for them to grow, and it still very much is. So we were funding that. And then when times got a bit tough and the funding stopped flowing like a fire hose, as it still is not right now, although it does look like there is hope, but and it hasn't for probably about 12 months, they stopped paying those. So not only were we funding their sort of fees, or our work over 6 months, but they weren't paying on time. So it was dragging out to sometimes a year.
Yeah.
Which, as you can imagine from a cash flow point of view, well, you don't need to imagine, you were right there.
We know.
Absolutely killed us.
Yeah.
It killed us.
So what are the things that I suppose, like a lot of startup companies at the moment, and also over the last sort of 6 to 12 months, what did you have to do to sort of help fix the burden of what we were in?
We had to do what everyone else has had to do, and we had to let some people go. A lot of soul-searching moments, and I delayed on that too long. Too much of an optimist.
You're too kind.
No, just an optimist. I believed it was going to turn.
It was going to shift.
Or I believed they were going to pay. And we did have quite a few go bust. Not too many, but we had quite a few, so they're obviously never paying.
Yeah.
But yeah, we ended up unfortunately having to let go people who helped us build the business from scratch. Employee number 3, for example. Let's not talk names, but there was a lot of people. The offshore team, that was heartbreaking, because I know how much that impacts their lives. There was people in the UK, people in Singapore, there was people here who we had to let go to bring it down to a sustainable model based on the amount of work that was available, without having really solved any of the problems, because we still had our payment plans going on, and we still want to offer that, because it's such a game changer for a lot of startups who can't afford to use agencies. We were enabling them to use agencies, and we never wanted to stop that. We had to rethink that, and we did that around how we paid our staff and commission and so forth internally, because what was happening was we were paying our staff up front, we weren't collecting the money up front, and then they weren't paying us. It was just a disaster. So we had to do that, and we had to have that honest conversation with staff. That was a fun day.
I remember that day.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. I remember ringing you about it. And then obviously we had to let some people go, but we still haven't solved our recurring revenue problem. So it wasn't a bang, let's just solve it. It was a stepping stone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to that point, you know, like a lot of businesses through this period, you've really had to think about, well, what can we do to solve that recurring revenue problem? Obviously, within the startup world and space, contractor volumes aren't going to be sustainable for us to find that recurring revenue model. So I think we've got a bit of an idea.
Well, we had a few ideas.
We had a few ideas.
We were going to start a normal recruitment company. I think we were going to call it TNG People. And that was just going to do recruitment in corporate.
Yep.
But we knew that was a bad idea because it was going to dilute the brand and we didn't want to do that. Although we created the logo.
Yep.
Then we were going to create a government business. That was a terrible idea because that doesn't align with the brand, and we have a logo for that too.
Yeah, awful.
And then we also created Nudge as a Service, which will come back one day.
That is coming back.
That is coming back.
I'm excited by this one.
But that was that sort of subscription recruitment model for scale-ups that were hiring at enough volume that it made sense. None of them are doing that. So that's just been put on the shelf. But we have a logo for that too.
And we're parking that because I think that's a great idea. And
so we spent a lot of money on logos.
Yeah. And no recurring revenue.
Yeah, and no recurring revenue still. Great. So we've really gone towards the right direction. And then I think you and I talked about this. And the funny thing is, we were talking about this for years before, and that was all of our media assets. And the media assets are products, and products can be sold in a recurring revenue subscription, all sorts of different models that don't rely on service and can create recurring revenue.
Yeah.
And that was when not so much the light bulb came on because we talked about it, but again, we hadn't done anything about
action.
it.
Yeah.
I'm too busy. And we said, hey, let's do this. 2 years too late. But let's do it
Not
now.
too late. Never
Not
too
too
late.
late.
Never too late.
2 years.
2 years planning.
Later than perhaps we should.
Yeah. Let's call it that. Well, I think that really brings us to the shift of our company and sort of where we're heading today. So I think we need to take a quick break because there's some exciting news to share with you all. So come and join us in a moment because we've got something exciting to share. So welcome back to the show. As you can see, we've been joined by Heyo. Welcome, Heyo.
Thank you.
Welcome,
Great to be
Heyo.
here. Thanks, Steve. Long time no see.
Yeah, it's been ages. So Heyo is our head of content for the Nudge Group. He's the editor-in-chief for Balance the Grind, and he's actually the producer of this show. So it's really exciting to have Heyo on this side of the camera. But I guess the reason that we've brought Heyo in here is so Steve can talk to you all about something that's new and exciting that's coming into our Nudge Group, and that is TNG Media. So
It's not Heyo.
no, you're
Heyo's not the
telling
new and
us.
exciting
Oh no, Heyo is new and exciting, but he's been with
Well,
us
he's
for
not new. But
2.5
it's nice to have
years.
him on this side. It's nice to have him on this
I
side.
don't like it. I like behind the scenes.
No,
But,
no.
special
This is your
occasion.
This is your first time in this studio.
Yes.
It is, isn't it?
Yes.
How do you feel?
Oh, all right. I'd prefer to be over there, up there.
behind the
Yeah,
screen. Yeah, you and me both.
Sorry, I'm digressing.
You
TNG
are.
Media.
TNG
You
Media.
do digress. So
TNG Media. So
tell us-
TNG Media. Can anyone guess where the name came from? Let's reveal it. Let's not have them guess.
Okay, it's a good idea.
The Nudge Group Media, TNG Media, took us hours.
It actually did, funnily
Can I
enough.
say, the reason we called it TNG Media isn't because of that. It's actually because of Heyo's obsession with the program, what's it called?
Succession.
Succession, right? So Succession has, what was it? The one-
ATN. They have
ATN, right? And he loves
They have
ATN.
PNG as well.
Yeah, so he
it's-
loves it. He was like, we
Okay.
should do TNG.
Okay.
So that's why
That's
we came
what-
up with the three
yeah.
letters. Because, and to be fair, I love that show too, but you were another level.
We would talk about it every Monday.
We would.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before
You're
we
obsessed
do
with a
any
few
work.
little things, and that's just one of them.
TNG Media is essentially our new and exciting future. So I think everyone knows we have, give it a nudge. Everyone knows we have Balance the Grind, but we also do have yet another media asset that we're going to talk about in a sec. But I think for us, this move is going to completely change our business. It's going to completely change our business because we are going to have, what are we going to have? We're going to have
Recurring revenue.
and look, I think Nudge Group will continue to grow, and I'm really focused now, and I think you and I have both talked about this many times, right? The learnings we've had of what's gone wrong. They're not, it's not a scalable business in one country. Like the startup ecosystems are relatively small. You know, we operate pre-seed to Series B is where we add the most value. There's only X amount of companies that can do that. So you're never going to have 50 consultants in Sydney. So that's going to be more globally focused. We've already got Singapore, we've already got London, we're talking about Dubai, and I think we're going to continue to have small teams dotted all over the world. helping startups grow in those countries, but then more so helping them launch into new countries. And that go-to-market strategy stuff, we've been doing a lot of that recently with companies coming here and going overseas. And I think that's really where we're going to focus and play in the future, is taking them through those early phases and then helping them go global.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be super, super interesting. But the TNG Media stuff is just mind-blowing in terms of what the people we can reach. We talked about this a lot in the past. Nudge Group was designed to help founders build their businesses. TNG Media is designed to help the world live a better life. And balance the grind is key in that.
Yeah.
But I think what I want to talk about before we get into that is I really want to talk about our new asset, Startup Life Unscripted.
Which
I want to throw over to Hayo because he's dying to talk
He's
about
the brainchild behind it all.
It was your idea. So
It was.
Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so I remember I was feeling burnt out. I texted Steve in the morning.
Got a terrible boss.
No, nothing like that. But I was just feeling a bit burnt out, and I told Steve I need a break. But before I went on a break, I said, before I go, I have this idea to start a newsletter. And I think before I even went on my holiday, I was like, logo, some ideas.
The logo, because you wanted the rocket.
I wanted the rocket, yeah, I wanted the rocket. I wanted the nudge blue and all that stuff. But so Startup Life, I felt like we were interviewing a lot of founders for Give It a Nudge and Balance the Grind. We were very founder focused, which is great. But I didn't think that the people who were working in the startups themselves, the employees, were getting enough recognition. And without them, then there is no startup.
There's no company.
It's just a founder and his idea, I guess. Once I got back, we just started reaching out to various people. We have a huge network, so it wasn't hard to get response. Our wait list for the newsletter is already pretty crazy.
Yeah.
The pipelines for the end of the year.
It's insane.
And I can't believe the amazing growth that we've had over the past 5 months already, 4 months.
It's insane.
14,000 subscribers, and we've interviewed a range of people from specifically the Australian ecosystem. So Fishburners, Mr. Yum, Zepto, Zumo, Airtasker, also GitHub. So a great range of people, but also across a really interesting variety of roles like developers, marketers, product. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you are, as long as you're in the startup ecosystem, we're talking to you.
Yeah. And what are some of the things that the stories that they're sharing about being, an employee of a startup, whether it be the first employee or, the third, fourth, fifth, beyond? Like, what are the conversations?
It's really just real stories about working in a startup. We don't want to. That's why it's called Unfiltered. We don't want to filter anything. It's really real stories. It's the challenges. It's a roller coaster. Working in startups can be very exhilarating and exciting and fun, but it also can be very hard. As we would know, there are lots of ups and downs. We have a very tight team, so we're fortunate that we go through the ups and downs together. But
it's a roller coaster, though.
Yeah, it's a real roller coaster, and we're getting those real stories. And also, one of the key themes is people transitioning from corporate roles or from non-startup roles into the startup world.
Yeah.
So it really helps people who aren't in the startup world, but they're interested in moving into the startup world.
I think that's a really important component of it, because there's a lot of corporate staff members that think, oh, I'd love to join a startup. I think it'd be great. I can add so much value. I've been working in this corporate for such a long time, and I know my process works really well. But in reality, unless you've been into that environment and you're seeing it kind of firsthand of how challenging and difficult and chaotic that environment is, it's not actually for everyone. So I think that's the real key with this newsletter, is sharing real stories. As you said, it's unscripted, it's unfiltered, it's the real journey of what people are experiencing. And I think it's a winner. Yeah. I think what are we up to? Number 19, 20 launch?
20 is next week.
20 next week.
Yeah.
On fire. I love it. What are your future ideas for the newsletter?
So many.
Global, video,
World
podcasts, all that
domination.
stuff. I think there's a lot of potential for richer content types. The newsletter as a starting point has been very successful, but I think video interviews, Dayna life, daily routine type of videos to get a more in-depth look at how people working at a startup life is.
Yeah, and also across those different cultures, as you mentioned, going global. I think working in an Australian startup might be quite different from an Indian startup or a Switzerland startup, for example. So just getting a real deep understanding of the startup world across the globe is going to be very exciting.
Very exciting future.
We're going to have so much data. We're going to be able to really And I reckon the whole habits thing, right? Habits has always been a big thing for us. We're going to be able to see if there's a consistent habits of all these people. There's a lot of interesting things.
A lot of interesting things, yeah.
And what are we going to do with the video? We're going to make it, what's my new favorite word that I like to talk about with Startup Life? Relatable.
Relatable.
Love that word.
Oh my gosh.
Stop rolling your eyes.
I can't
I had
help
to get
it.
it in. I had to say, you were supposed, someone was supposed to say it.
No, because we said, we're not saying that.
It's relatable, guys.
It's not relatable. No, it is relatable. So I guess the intro of Heyo into our business, I personally have a strong connection with, because Heyo and I first connected back in 2020, I think. 2019.
No, 2020, sorry.
Was it? Early 2020. It was early 2020. Heyo was managing Balance the Grind, which is an awesome now online publication, but back then it was almost like a bit of a personal blog for yourself. So tell us about what Balance the Grind was.
Yeah, it started out as just a health and fitness blog, because I was going to the gym a lot and I just wanted to write more and just research and just learn more about it. So that's how I learned, by writing and just creating content about it. And then my son Frankie was born. After the first, I think, year or so, I started to get more interested in how working parents juggled work and life and family and all that stuff. And I couldn't find a place that, like an online destination where I could just read these stories. And you know, there are bits and pieces all over, but there wasn't one central hub. So I decided to create one. So I just reached out to plenty of people on LinkedIn and just started asking about work-life balance. And you know, 300, 400, 500 people later, I came across you on LinkedIn.
Wow.
Reached out to you. So that was, more than 3 years ago.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
More
it's
than 3 years
so
ago.
crazy.
Yeah.
And I think just your genuine, kind outreach, it's, you know, that's why you had 300 before me. You know, it was so almost inspiring that you thought, I actually want to share this story just purely from the outreach Heyo had.
Very authentic.
It's so authentic. It's a very beautiful story, and I think from there it kind of just snowballed really into what we're doing today, and kind of the intro with Steve. We started talking and I said, you know what, I think you should speak to the founder of Nudge. I'm sure he'd be another great person for you to interview. He's a dad and
Has no balance at all.
Has zero balance, but he'll pretend he does. And so then you guys caught up, and what happened then?
Well, I did the interview. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
You tell the story.
I actually don't know that I've read your interview.
Oh, well, that's the first thing to do
Yikes.
after this.
It's a long time ago. I don't know if it would be the same. It probably wouldn't be the same now, because it was a long time ago.
I think the daily routine is quite similar. You still exercise, you still have your coffee, are you still intermittent fasting? It's still pretty similar. But Dayna connected me. Yeah, I don't remember most of them anyway. Dayna connected me with Steve, and then I interviewed Steve, and then I think it was a few months later. Well, when I interviewed Steve, it clicked.
You wanted me to sponsor.
Yeah,
we did a little bit of sponsorship.
We did that.
We won't
That's
talk
right.
that story. It's a funny story for another time.
Story.
Yeah.
And then
The key negotiator. Mr. Commercial.
Hey, head of commercial. Yeah.
Actually, one of the best stories ever. We should record. We'll do a little side video. We'll just stick it on YouTube, and you can hear that story because it's gold.
And then
Masterclass.
a few months later, we just connected, and I asked if you wanted to acquire Steve. Just acquire Balance the Grind, not acquire Steve. But just, it was out of the blue, wasn't it?
You said, do you want to buy Balance the Grind? And I was like, what?
What?
Yep.
Why?
And then we met up, had a few conversations, and then it moved pretty quickly. I mean,
Well, the plan was first write content for us.
Write content.
Write content for the Nudge Group. We can see that you're a great writer. You can tell a story. Write for us, and then we might consider.
Well, Balance the Grind
Might
was just
consider.
your side hustle, right?
was.
You were working full time at Sparrow, I think it was.
It was another company.
Was it not? Yeah. Okay. Right. But anyway, you were working full time. So I just said, why don't you come and, because we were hitting that point where Dayna and I were just putting out really average content. We were just reposting other people's content, and we were getting really good reactions from it. So we thought maybe we should create some of our own.
And also trying to grow our own business.
Yeah, we
following
didn't have
at
the time. We didn't have the time, and so we wanted a head of content. We wanted someone to help us, and it was fortuitous in that respect. So you came to work for us, right?
Yep. And then I think it was just 2 days a week. at first, and then like.
Is that what I was?
And then,
was.
and then
Oh my
like
goodness,
yeah,
that
and then
was when we were
a
in
few
Mountain
days later, it was the
Place.
same week, and then he was like, "Do you want to come full time?" I was like,
Doesn't sound like
It
me.
was- yeah, That's exactly
Yeah.
what it was.
Yeah. So it
was
The
on your
first-
second day.
On your second day,
Yeah.
then it turned into a full-time role, and then it
Yeah.
went from, well, I'm not buying the business just yet, and then 7 days later, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to buy the business.
Yeah.
I
and-
think it was 6 weeks, wasn't
No,
it?
it was
no,
not.
It was very.
I tell everyone.
You
it's
moved
6
very
weeks.
quickly.
It was
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
pretty quick transition.
I think
And-
that all the admin stuff took a few weeks, but like in terms of talking about it and deciding on it, it moved pretty quickly, which I loved. Which
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
just
been the best.
Take action.
And I think for those that don't already follow Balance the Grind, do you want to talk about, I guess, the pillars and sort of what we're doing
Yeah.
on that online
So
publication?
I mean, Balance the Grind. If you look at it now, right? I think there's about 3,000. Is that right? 3,000 interviews. It's an insane amount, right? Insane amount of people that have come back and told us what they do to balance their life from all warps of life, from all over the world. And so we've always talked about how we were going to, use that and monetize it and so forth. And what we've done now is we've changed it into not just letting other people tell their stories, but we have turned it into a publication that's going to help people all over the world live their life better. So we sat down, we spent a lot of time on this, and we've created 4 content pillars. So the first one, career and entrepreneurship, because that's kind of what we knew. So it was obvious to have one in that, and a lot of the people we interview talk a lot about their work.
Yeah.
And then you think, okay, well, let's balance the grind. This is about work-life balance. So the next one obviously was going to be health and well-being, which includes nutrition and all those kinds of things, and spirituality. So that's the second content pillar. Then financial wealth creation and personal wealth. So, this is a B2C platform. So this is about how people can make their lives better from a personal wealth. We're not talking about crazy investment tips. We're talking about roundup products. We're talking about apps. We're talking about new things that could potentially help people build a better financial solution for themselves. And then lastly, and it's important to all of us, is obviously social impact, sustainability and environment, which I just think's a topic that everyone in the world should be talking about whenever they can.
Absolutely.
So we came up with our 4 pillars. Great, we got 4 pillars. Okay, now we're going to start creating content. So we thought editorial. There's not a lot of us sitting here. There's only 3 of us. So creating editorial for a publication when we're already doing our other jobs and creating this show and doing Nudge and doing stuff, it was like, how the heck are we going to do that? So then we started to go out and look at contributors, and now we've got this huge sort of flow of editorial content coming onto there. And we decided we would also do product reviews, because there's a lot of products that are coming in that can make people's lives better, and we want people to know about those. Then we thought, well, there's books. So we started doing book reviews. We've also got our own merchandise raise. And we're really sort of looking at all sorts of different things we can do to help anyone in the world live their life better. But it's very much aimed at people who want to make their lives better. It's not aimed at, it's not a sort of 100% everyone can read it. It's if you're a motivated individual who wants to improve your life, this is the publication for you.
Yeah.
And when we decided all that, we were like, okay, let's do it. And that's when the 3 of us decided to co-found TNG Media. And TNG Media is now becoming its own part of our business, and it's going to own Balance the Grind, it's going to own Startup Life, and it's going to own Give It a Nudge. And we're going to grow those assets. And that's kind of where we're at right now. What do you think about that?
Good journey.
It's just pretty surreal because, like you said, I started Balance Grind as this little side blog, this little hobby, and now I'm sitting in a TV studio with, Balance the
Your
Grind.
merch
I'm
on.
like, merchandise. So we've come a long way, but it's just the beginning, really.
But you should talk about that. You should talk about, remember when you said to me, do you want to buy Balance the Grind, which is the most random thing anyone's ever said to me off the cuff. I think you led with that as well.
I
so, hi Steve, do you want to buy Balance the Grind?
I'm all
Chase.
business.
Yeah.
I don't fluff around.
Yeah, so, and here we were talking about your lack of commercialization.
Do you want to buy Balance the Grind for free?
Do you want to, we should say that. But let's talk about that, because think about it, right? Back then, there was no ABN. It was just a
little
It was
blog.
just you writing on WordPress,
Yeah.
right? And what did you? Can you remember what you said? I bet you can, because your memory is much better than mine. Can you remember what you said? And I said why?
Yeah.
Why?
So I, because I wanted to work on Balance the Grind full time.
You did.
Because I loved, writing these daily routines and talking to people about work-life balance, and I wanted to really focus on it. My pitch to C was, you can bring Balance the Grind into the Nudge group, and initially use as a lead gen, but also get Nudge's brand across the globe, because that's what your goal was for Nudge, to really grow across the world.
You also wanted to take it to the world, right?
Yeah.
We were going global at that time.
Yeah.
So it was, it's a cool story.
Yeah, and now Balance the Grind is my full-time job.
Well,
Yeah,
no, give it a nudge. Startup Life.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't forget those.
Forget
Don't forget those.
TNG Media
TNG
as a whole.
Media, yeah, but it's pretty surreal.
And
Living
that's-
your
I gotta tell you,
dreams.
That's
yeah,
our,
it is.
that's like, think about that, right? We've had all this sort of disaster, let's call it disaster, where
Just challenges.
the businesses
Challenges.
turned, the world turned on us, and all the problems we knew. And I'm still recovering from that because I feel like I failed in so many ways in that all the things that happened to us, I knew were going to happen to us, and I did nothing about them because I was consumed in the good things that were happening and
Yeah.
trying to put the bad things away.
Yeah.
And I think we could have avoided some of the pain, but regardless, the pain has brought us to here, to where we are. And now I feel like we're sort of found new purpose.
I would agree
Nudge
with
was always
that.
about helping founders, and now we're going to help the world. I mean, that's nuts. We've had founders sit on this couch saying how their product's going to change the world, and
Yeah.
I've always envied that because as a recruiter, you never feel like you're going to change the world, right? You feel you're going to change one person
You're
at a
making
time.
a difference.
You are.
Small difference.
Small difference, but never change the world. But
Yeah.
now we've got this opportunity to do that, and we can link it in with Nudge, and Nudge can grow globally as well, and we can still help all those founders,
Yeah.
but we can also help this massive wide audience, which is crazy.
And I just think the whole purpose behind, helping people live better lives, it means that sort of slogan means so much to
Live better.
Live better.
That's it, isn't it?
Live better.
better.
Help
Live
people live better. And that means so much to everybody, like whether it be through your health and wellness, through your professional careers, through your families. It covers such a big range. So I love working on the Balance of
Well,
Grind
think about
business.
this, right? Think about this. If you think about most of our clients at Nudge, it's been tech, right? So we've always been able to see the new tech that's coming along, and I love future tech.
Yeah, that's cool stuff.
Think about how quick tech's moving, and think about how quick tech is improving everyone's lives and has done. There's things that haven't improved as well. We're going to have the ability to be at the forefront of what's going to be possibly the most fastest moving, exciting time in any history of technology changing the way we completely live with AI and all these other things that are flying in now. And we're going to get to talk about it all and tell everyone what they should do or not. How good is that?
What they should do.
What they should do.
What they should and shouldn't do. Well, look, I mean, as you can see, huge change since our 50th episode, which was only 18 months ago. Really excited to see where the journey goes and what our 150th episode's going to look like, and
Oh my gosh,
the
can't even think
global
about that.
domination that we've been able to achieve. So with that in mind, thank you both for joining us.
Thanks for hosting.
Thanks for
Oh,
hosting,
you're most
Dayna.
welcome.
We got to get her on camera more.
I'm glad.
for
I'm
hosting, and
glad.
thanks for coming on because
I'm
you
glad
didn't
I
look
don't do it
overly
often.
excited.
No, I'm not overly excited.
He's super excited. Pumped. No, I mean, I will only come out every 50th episode, so don't expect a repeat of this. But thank you very much for joining us, and please subscribe to our show. We're going to link all of our media assets in the bio below, so you won't want to miss that. So yeah, thanks, boys.
Awesome.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dayna.